Tonight's invocation is being offered by Reverend Philip Breen of St. Anne Catholic Church. He is the guest of Councilmember Buddy Baker.
Our help is in the name of the Lord, who made the heavens and the earth. Blessed be the name of the Lord, now and forever. Let us pray. Oh God, we come together tonight for this Metro meeting. We ask your blessings upon all who gather. We ask that you teach us to remind us that power and wisdom are gifts to be used wisely, to do what is right, and have the courage to say no to all that is contrary to the good of all. We pray that we can continue to bring this great community together so that we may rise above partisan politics and see the larger vision of the future of this great city. Use these elected and knowledgeable members of the council to bring reconciliation between races and healing to political wounds. Grant them peace and calmness in the face of storms, encouragement in the face of frustration, and humility in the face of success. Lord, you desire for us to communicate with one another with respect, care, and compassion, to seek the good always. Help us then as we seek your Spirit to have open ears and hospitable minds as we listen, share, and build a community, pleasing and acceptable to you here on the banks of the Cumberland. And we pray your rich blessing to descend upon all the members of this council, their families, and the citizens of this city. And may God's grace remain with them always, now and forever. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Without objection, we'll suspend the calling of the roll and ask the clerk to record the names of the members present throughout the meeting. Is there a motion for the adoption of our minutes from our September 18th? We have a motion and a second. If there is no objection, the minutes will stand approved as written. Madam Clerk, are there any messages from the mayor?
There are no messages from the mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Anthony Davis, do you wish to be recognized?
Yes, Madam Vice Mayor. As a result of the presidential and state general election to be held on November 6th, I move that the council change the date of the first meeting in November from Tuesday, November 6, 2012 to Tuesday, November 13, 2012 at 6:30 p.m.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We have two presentations this evening. We'll start with Councilmember Baker.
Chief Casey, if you and your family want to get back here, this proclamation is being presented tonight for naming of the West Police Precinct Chief Joe D. Casey. Whereas Chief Joe Casey joined the Nashville Police Force in 1951 and served as Chief of Police from 1973 until his retirement in 1989. And whereas Chief Casey was very active in professional organizations, serving 7 times as president of the Tennessee Association of Chiefs of Police, as well as the past president of the International Association of Chiefs of Police. Whereas after graduating from North High School in Nashville in 1946, where he lettered in 6 sports, Joe Casey played for the Nashville Vols, a professional baseball team, and the Southern Baseball League in the late 1940s. Whereas Chief Joe Casey served 24 seasons as a high school basketball official and was inducted into the Tennessee Secondary School Athletic Association Hall of Fame in 2008 and Public School Hall of Fame in 2012. Whereas it is fitting and proper that the new West Police Police Precinct facility located at 5500 Charlotte Avenue be named in honor of Chief Joe D. Casey, who made such a significant contribution to the Metro Police Department. We, the undersigned members of the Metropolitan Council of Nashville and Davidson County, Tennessee, want to thank you for your contribution to our city.
Thank you, buddy. I believe that the honoree standing at the podium only represents the people that helped him get there. And God knows I had to have a lot of help. And I would like to recognize some of the people that helped me. Some of them are not here. Some of them have passed away. But the 4 mayors I worked for, there were men and women of the police department that I work with. My friends, other political office holders. Without their help, I would not be here. With their help and the grace of God, I'm allowed to be here. But I do thank each and every one of you for passing this resolution. It's one of the highest honors I've ever received, and I've received a lot of them, and I appreciate it, and I will cherish it for the rest of my life. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank you people for what you do to help our city. I believe we live in the greatest city in America, and I don't have no doubt about that, and I don't have no second guess about that. But now, you people help keep it going that way, and I encourage you to continue to make it even better than what it is today. So, Mayor Carl Dean, Madam Vice Mayor, and ladies and gentlemen of the council, I appreciate this honor from the bottom of my heart, and may God bless you as you continue to strive to help this city grow even greater. Thank you.
Councilmember Dominy.
This guy.
Still all right? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you, sweetheart. Hey, Don. Thank you, buddy. You doing all right?
Congratulations again. Well done.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's with great pleasure that I participate in the night of recognizing our armed protectors of our city and those that serve within that capacity. And I'd like to recognize Chaplain Tim Eldred on being named National Sheriff's Association Chaplain of the Year for 2012. Whereas National Sheriff's Association announced that Chaplain Tim Eldred of the Rutherford County Sheriff's Office and resident of Nashville, Tennessee, and a great resident of the fabulous 28th Council District, has been selected as recipient of the 2012 Chaplain of the Year. And he was presented with this honor on June 18th at the annual conference here in Nashville, Tennessee. This title is bestowed upon one whose encouragement and dedication go above and beyond in helping officers cope with the daily pressures, needs, and stresses of their job and the toll that is placed on their everyday lives. Chaplain Eldred, ordained in the gospel ministry in Bishop, Texas in 1974, is instrumental in founding the Christian Law Enforcement Summit, which was established to offer law enforcement officers and their families a place of encouragement, support, and spiritual training. For over 10 years, Chaplain Tim Eldred's outstanding spiritual leadership, understanding, guidance, and strong faith have been a tremendous source of inspiration to many Rutherford County Sheriff's Office deputies and employees, as well as all the officers from around the nation involved in the Summit program. And I'm honored to take this time to recognize Chaplain Tim Eldred on being named the National Sheriff's Association Chaplain of the Year, and wish him all the best in the future.
Thank you, council members and all. I will say this, I've been ordained since 1974 and I've never had a life like the last 10 years of living with law enforcement officers and their families. I'm not involved in anything other than just simply responding to family needs and crisis and whatnot, and what an honor. What a privilege to be a part of the sheepdog life and not the sheep life. And it's a tremendous privilege, and I can just stand here and say, ah. And it's so wonderful as a member of Nashville in Antioch to be able to see you recognize that God decided to use me. And I'm so thankful for that. And thank you for recognizing me. I really appreciate it.
With the point on our agenda for elections and confirmations, Councilmember Anthony Davis.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. A few to run through tonight. Our first was an appointment to the Gas Mechanical Examiners Appeals Board, Mr. Eloy Saban. The committee, it was a first-time appointment. The committee voted 7-4-0 against, and I move his approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Next was a reappointment to the Wastewater Hearing Authority, Mr. John Barnes. The committee voted to recommend 7-4-0 against, and I move his approval.
Second. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Another reappointment of Ms. Ruthie Brown Cherry, also to the Wastewater Hearing Authority. Committee also recommended 7-4-0 against, and I move approval.
Second. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Another reappointment to the Wastewater Hearing Authority, Dr. Edward Thaxton. The committee voted 7-4-0 against to recommend, and I move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Another reappointment to the Wastewater Hearing Authority, Dr. Robert Wingfield, Jr. Committee voted to recommend 7-4-0 against, and I move his approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Finally, the reappointment of Ms. Terry Kevlin. The committee recommended deferral indefinitely, 7-4-0 against, and I move for indefinite deferral.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of indefinite deferral, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. When I call your name, please stand. Eloy Saban, John Barnes, Ruthie Brown Cherry, Dr. Edward Thaxton, and Dr. Robert Wingfield. On behalf of the Metropolitan Council, thank you all so much for your willingness to continue to serve our city and to volunteer your time and your expertise and your energy. Thank you so much. We're now at bills on public hearing. The first one is BL 2012-244, changes .5 acres from CS to SP zoning for property located at 604 Gallatin Pike to permit automobile sales used and all uses permitted by CS zoning. Councilmember Pridemore.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I'd like to open for public hearing.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing none on either side, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Pridemore.
Move for passage.
Second. Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Without objection, we can take 245 and 246 together. BL 2012-245 cancels 29.9 acres of the Hamilton Hills Urban Design Overlay District located at 3300 Murfreesboro Pike, zoned RM9 and RM20 and proposed for CS. BL 2012-246 changes 29.9 acres from RM9 and RM20 to CS zoning for property located at 3300 Murfreesboro Pike. Councilmember Duvall.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I believe we've got a presentation from the Planning Department first.
Yes, we need to see the slides.
This is Council Bill 2012-245, which cancels a portion of the Hamilton Hills UDO, and Council Bill 2012-248, which is a request to rezone from RM9 and RM20 to CS zoning. This is for property that is outlined in red at the intersection of Murfreesboro Pike and Mount View Road, and the Planning Commission recommended disapproval. The portion of the property, the portion of the UDO requested for cancellation permits a variety of residential building types ranging from single-family residential at the back of the site to multifamily residential at the front along Murfreesboro Pike. The current base zoning is multifamily residential with RM20 along the Murfreesboro Pike frontage and RM9 in the interior of the site. The CS zoning district would allow a range of commercial uses. The land use policies for this site are corridor general along Murfreesboro Pike and neighborhood general on the back half of the site. Both of these policies are residential-only land use policies. The proposed CS zoning district would permit a wide range of commercial activities not anticipated by these residential land use policies. The Planning Commission recommended disapproval of both the UDO cancellation and the rezoning to CS as the request is inconsistent with the land use policies in place.
Councilmember Duvall.
Yes, Madam Chairman. May we open the public hearing, please?
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Duvall.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would like to move this bill forward and for approval with an indefinite deferral till we can work out a final plan. May I go ahead and speak on that?
We have a motion. Is there a second? Have a motion and a second. Councilman.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is a piece of property that adjoins the Publix Marketplace Shopping Center. It's critical to the growth and retail opportunity of adding jobs and business to the Southeast Davidson County corridor. We looked at this property for with a number of different interested parties. We believe that this zoning is absolutely essential to making that property a viable location where they would want to go ahead and move forward with possibly a purchase and development of that land. So I'm asking this council to give us a chance to bring back Southeast Davidson County and start bringing the jobs that we promised and start trying to bring the underserviced retail that we no longer have in Southeast Davidson County, and that's the whole reason for the plan. So I move for approval with an indefinite deferral till we can get a final plan. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Without objection, we can take 247 and 248 together. Seeing none, BL 2012-247 amends 9.17 acres of the Burton Hills Commercial Plan Unit Development Overlay District located at 1 Burton Hills Boulevard, zoned R15, and proposed for SP to permit a 7-story office building, replacing a 4-story office building, and to increase the total floor area for office uses. BL 2012-248 changes 9.17 acres from R15 to SP zoning for property located at 1 Burton Hills Boulevard to permit office uses. Councilmember McGuire.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd move to open the public hearing.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Those in support wishing to speak, please line up at their lectern. Please state your name and your address.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Aiken. I live at 520 Jackson Boulevard. I'm a resident of Nashville, Davidson County, and have lived here all my life. I'm with the firm of Aiken Partners, and we manage the EP Real Estate Fund, which is the applicant and the one requesting this change. We also have owned 2 of the 5 office buildings in Burton Hills for the last 10 years. First, I want to point out that we are very concerned about the neighborhood and want to work with the neighborhood, and they are a top priority because we want to be a good neighbor. Secondly, I feel that we are doing the right thing for the city of Nashville as this promotes quality economic growth. This building will create infill, which is a goal of the city, to build a new parking lot on a current asphalt parking lot. It will increase the tax base, which will help our city and hopefully minimize tax increases in the future. It will create a quality new building where we can keep employees and tenants within the county versus moving outside the county. And also, we will create hundreds of new jobs during the construction process. I would like to point out that we have met with the councilman, with the Ed Davis, the head of the Burton Hills Homeowners Association, and the owners of all the other office buildings. The building we originally wanted was a 7-story building, but we have agreed to lower that building, so our request is actually the 4-story building this evening. It's a quality building. It will be in keeping with the other buildings that are 1 3-story building, the others that are about 5.5 stories. We appreciate your careful consideration of this and your approval of this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, Councilmen and women, appreciate you letting me come talk. I am Andrew Dye. I represent CCA. We're located at 10 Burton Hills, a neighbor of the property. We own and operate within that building, and have seen, working with John and his group, that they are working with the community, and we see this as a great benefit not only to Metro Davidson for the reasons he stated, the job opportunities, the growth opportunities, but also they've worked with the community there in Burton Hills very favorably, even lowering and compromising there. And just seeing that, it's given us reason to really accept this and move forward with it and support it. It's an infill project. Current infrastructure is already in place. So little to no cost moving forward with Metro, just another benefit of this project. So CCA would like to voice its support here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Bob Murphy. My address is 1101 17th Avenue South. I'm president of RPM Transportation Consultants, and I served as the traffic engineer for this project. Our role was to evaluate the traffic impacts of the proposed 110,000 square foot office building. And it should be noted that for this project, Metro Public Works did not require the developer to provide a detailed traffic impact study because they had already identified traffic signal improvements that they wanted the developer to make as part of this project. Also, they recognized that good infrastructure is in place in Burton Hills. And they also realized that from their analysis that this new building would result in relatively low traffic generation impacts and would have a minor impact overall with traffic flow. However, based on their expertise and knowledge of the area. As I mentioned, they did require certain traffic-related improvements for this development. Now, when the Burton Hills office or the whole development was initially approved, infrastructure was put in place at that time to accommodate the development that was planned. And our traffic analysis that we conducted for this building included identifying current traffic volumes, determining how much additional traffic would be generated by the new building, and then assessing the impact of the development on the surrounding street system and the intersections. And from our analysis, we determined that the current infrastructure will adequately accommodate the additional traffic from this development as long as we provide the traffic signal related improvements which were identified by Metro Public Works. As a result of our analysis, we've determined that this office building will have a nominal impact to traffic flow and operations. And as I mentioned previously, these conclusions were reviewed and confirmed by Metro Public Works. Our analysis also showed that additional traffic from this building that will travel through the adjacent neighborhood streets will be very low. This is because the route through the neighborhood is rather circuitous, with several intersections and turns along low-speed residential streets. But we do understand that the neighborhood has concerns now about existing traffic that cuts through the neighborhood. So the developer has agreed to assist the neighborhood in working with Metro Public Works to identify traffic calming solutions to address the cut-through issues. So the developer is committed to conducting a traffic study to specifically evaluate the cut-through traffic impacts for this project and for the current traffic. In summary, implementation of the conditions of approval by Public Works will mitigate the impacts of this development and will provide safe and efficient traffic operations. Also, the developer's commitment to assist the neighborhood in working with Public Works to explore appropriate traffic calming measures will help minimize the impacts to the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Clay Bright. I live at 909 Westview Avenue. I'm with Brassfield and Gorey. We're the general contractor for the project at Burton Hills. I had just a few key points I wanted to address before the council this evening, so I certainly appreciate your time. My 3 points, the first being safety. Safety for us is our #1 priority in making sure that our construction workers have a safe work environment on that job site, and that also goes to the public around us. One critical item to that safety is making sure the way we move materials and equipment on that site and off that site is going to be critical to make sure that the public is kept safe. The second item I wanted to address is cleanliness. For us, a clean site is always a very safe site for our workers, and that also applies to the public. And it's important to us to keep the streets around that road job site clean for the public. My third item is blasting. That is always a concern for everyone. We will monitor the blasting all the way through that blasting process to make sure that we stay within the state regulations. It is also our intent, and what we've also always done in the past, is to meet with the neighbors and to, one, let them know what our process is going to be through that blasting exercise and what our schedule is going to be, so they know exactly what's going to happen every day and what we have planned. We also want to meet with those neighbors to understand and get their input and address any concerns that they may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Tom Harwell. I live at 3514 Hampton Avenue and certainly appreciate all of your time being here this evening. I work with Aiken Partners here in Nashville, and I'm in support of this PUD amendment for the portion of Burton Hills. And from the beginning of this process, as you can imagine, we've had numerous conversations regarding the plan and the neighborhood concerns with that plan. And as you've heard, the proposal has been modified in an attempt to accommodate some of those concerns, and I just wanted to share a few other examples. You've heard the mention of traffic calming. I thought Mr. Murphy did a great job that I cannot add anything to. We've heard about green space. I just want to be clear that the new building is actually going on to an underutilized asphalt parking lot, and there will be no encroachment on the existing green space, which is in the Burton Hills Office Park. We've heard about the scale of the building. You heard that the building has been reduced from 7 to 4 stories. 4 of the 5 existing buildings that are in the park today are actually 5 stories, and this building will fit nicely actually on the downhill slope of those larger 5-story buildings. In addition, the actual square footage of the building at 110,000 square feet there will be 5 buildings in the park that will have larger square footages than that. We heard a little bit about storm drainage, and of course all the improvements to our site will include upgrades to the storm drainage system to meet the new city standards, leaving the site and the surrounding area in a better state than it is today. Clay Bright talked about Brassfield and Gorey and their construction firm. I would only add that it was Brassfield and Gorey that built our garage for SunTrust Plaza, which is 85 feet away, literally, from the Ryman Auditorium. They did so safely. They did so with no disruption to the Ryman, and ended up delivering a very nice building for SunTrust Bank here in the downtown core. And as far as I mentioned the traffic before, and as far as the existing traffic, that's something we've heard over and over again. And I just wanted to reiterate what Bob had said regarding our commitment to pay for that initial study with the neighbors, and that with that information in hand, I believe our councilman and our mayor's office will make that issue a top priority for them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is William Hastings. I'm with Hastings Architecture Associates, 127 3rd Avenue South. Thank you for your time this evening. Appreciate you hearing our request. We've been working with the Planning Commission staff for the past couple of months in developing what we believe is a solution that addresses as many of the concerns of the neighbors as possible. The concession, as you would imagine, to go from 7 stories to 4 stories is an architectural challenge, but also one that really brings on the importance of the blasting discussion. I also will add that Brassfield and Gorey is the contractor that built the parking garage in front of this great courthouse, and we know how well they protected this building during construction, and this is much closer than any of the residents will be to our project. We were pleased to have unanimous approval at the Planning Commission last week. And we have a building design and a scale of a building that we think is extremely appropriate for the site. Mr. Harwell mentioned that the site it's actually on the downhill side of the site. We're a good 25 feet lower, roughly, from any adjacent building, and about 35 feet lower at certain points from Hillsborough Road. So we think the scale of this building is going to be very appropriate to pedestrians along Hillsborough Road that will be walking along a new sidewalk that we're going to be improving as part of this project. There's also additional improvements above what Bob Murphy stated, which are some pedestrian improvements at the intersections and other things that the developer has been working with the community in trying to address their concerns, and those have all been addressed through Councilman McGuire. So appreciate your consideration, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Chad Bodorf. I'm with Aiken Partners, located at 1600 Division Street, Nashville. I'm speaking this evening in support of the proposed SP zoning. I serve as Aiken Partners representative to the Burton Hills Office Association for our 2 buildings that we currently manage in the office park, as well as I serve as our company's point of contact to the Burton Hills Homeowners Association. Since July, I've worked to collect feedback regarding our proposed office building and the Burton Hills Office Park. Our goal was to collect input from various groups. The groups included Burton Hills homeowners, commercial neighbors, our potential tenant, and planning staff. Then work these ideas and feedback into our design and commitments to the homeowners in the office park. As noted by some of the previous speakers before, we've made some changes to our building design. We lowered the height from 7 to 4 stories. We've made commitments to the homeowners of Burton Hills and the other commercial buildings in the park regarding traffic calming initiatives and common area improvements that we will make in the office park. To date, we've had a number of individuals express their approval of our project, many of which the letters I brought with me tonight. Thank you for your time and appreciate your support.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. My name is Carlisle Carroll, and I reside at 6116 Gardendale Drive. I work daily for the Nashville Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development. I'm Vice President of Recruitment, working alongside some of the mayor's staff here with new and existing companies that are expanding within the county. Recently, we undertook a year-long study called the Nashville Redevelopment Task Force, looking at some of the reasons why commercial and industrial development was not happening within the confines of Davidson County. One of the things that the task force found out was there was a lack of buildable sites within the county. It's been much easier for developers to go to outside and surrounding counties to build, and thus jobs, income, and revenue from this county are taken to counties outside. I would ask the county to consider everything within their power and under the law to make it easier, more efficient, and more cost-effective to be able to build here within the county so that jobs, income, and in revenue stay within the county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor, members, my name is James Weaver. I reside at 212 Deer Park Circle. I'm honored to be here tonight to represent Mr. Aiken and the other 39 Nashvillians that own this particular parking lot in Burton Hills. You've already heard comments tonight on the various technical aspects of this project, and so I'm not going to keep you any longer with those. I do want to mention two things that we think are vital. One, you may or may not hear a lot about process tonight after I sit down, and I want to ensure the council that both in terms of the process associated with the neighbors, with the neighborhoods. Burton Hills is a mixed-use development. It's an area where people share space, commercial space, retail space, assisted living facilities, and obviously homeowners. The process, Councilman McGuire and the others have been involved with this, has been outstanding. Comments have been made, changes have been made. Particular, the change to go from 7 stories to 4 stories was a significant change in this process, a change that resulted in a fairly significant increase in the cost. But at the end of the day, it was the right thing to do, and the clients were more than happy to do it. That said, that resulted in the parking needing to go underground. And we're in Davidson County, and I don't know any other way to put this parking underground other than to use a little dynamite. So there will be some blasting, but it's the trade-off that you have to go underground, to do the structured parking, to deliver the reduction in height that everybody seemed to be interested in. You're also going to hear a little bit tonight perhaps about the legal process. And I want to assure the council that the legal process associated with this PUD has been followed to the T. These same issues were presented to the planning staff and rejected. These same issues were presented to the Metro Legal and rejected. These same issues were presented to the Planning Commission and they were unanimously rejected. And we would ask you to reject them tonight. Again, at the end of the day, what this project is about a headquarters facility. It's about keeping a company here in Davidson County that's here today, allowing them to grow their headquarters and keep those jobs and the economic development that they represent in Davidson County. Thank you for your time. Thank you for attention. Thank you for all you do for this city that we live in, and appreciate your support.
Those wishing to speak in opposition, please line up at the lectern. Please state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Eve Hutcherson. I reside at 237 Boxmeer Place in Burton Hills, and I am the president of the Boxmeer Village Homeowners Association. And just to be sure that the council is aware, Burton Hills is in fact divided into a group of villages, all of which have their own associations. And I think what you're going to hear tonight is that the 3 villages closest to the project are in strong opposition to this change. And I have here with me signatures of 30 homeowners that I'd like to share with whoever is keeping records on this, if you like. The summary of concerns, I think you're probably already aware of. The chief one is traffic. And with all due respect to the earlier speakers, it's very troubling to the neighbors to hear anybody say that the cut-through traffic is insignificant. I think anybody who would say that has never stood at that corner at 7:45 in the morning. And I understand that a traffic study can establish this statistically, and there's a science that applies to this. But all this information presented tonight associated with adjustments to traffic lights and potential traffic calming, is not specific enough, and some of which has not ever been presented to those of us who have been in attendance at these meetings. So I think the greatest concern that's been expressed to me by the homeowners that I represent is that if in fact traffic can be mitigated in some way, we don't really know what that is. Nobody's told us what that really means and how it would work. And so the idea of approving the application before that information is in front of us is very concerning to us. The other thing I wanted to mention just real quickly is that we are fully aware, based on the information that's been presented to us, that there is approval in place for the 54,000 square foot building that I guess was approved 4 years ago. It's been said to us that what we're considering here is really the difference between 54,000 and 110,000 square feet. And what I would say to you all is, to the neighbors, it's a huge, huge difference. It is not something that we take as lightly as I think some of the information that you guys have heard so far tonight. So please consider, if you can't reject this outright, which we would encourage you to do, please consider deferring until we can get real, true information on what could be done for the traffic. And the other feedback I've received from the homeowners in my association is that the proposed upgrades to the neighborhood presented by the developer are basically meaningless to the residents in the residential area. They may have an impact on the individuals who use the office park, but they don't really have an impact on us as residents. Thank you.
I would ask the Sergeant at Arms to get your petition, please. Thank you.
My name is Patricia Collins. I live at 36 Belcaro Circle in Burton Hills. I have before me 104 signatures opposing the project. I live in the first village, and we had only one person not sign the petition. The traffic is bad, and you cannot hardly cross it in the morning. Other than that, everything's been said. Do I need to give these to you?
The Sergeant at Arms will take those. Thank you.
My name is Judith Ginn. I live at 713 Summerwind Circle. I have lived in Burton Hills for nearly 25 years. Mayor Dean has been urging Nashville residents to adopt walking for fitness and health, for which I commend him. I have been a dedicated walker since Mayor Dean was in kindergarten for both health reasons and pleasure, and have found my own neighborhood to be a safe and enjoyable place to do this. The spoilers of a quiet, pleasant walk are the cars and trucks and the noise and exhaust fumes that they bring with them. It's not the speed of the traffic, but the sheer volume of it. And no one can convince me that a building of that size with that occupancy will not add considerably to the number of cars going by walkers. It is a given. I mean, it's going to happen if that building is erected. Also, having lived in a neighborhood in another city that was adversely affected by blasting, and they were not going to put in 3 levels of underground parking. It was a much shallower blasting. But we had homes that were adversely affected, and those homeowners were never reimbursed for their losses for that. And so I am concerned about the blasting. But in short, I feel that the addition of such a large office building would be detrimental to the livability of Burton Hills. I urge the council members to please vote no on this change. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Deborah Zigrid Taylor. I live at 231 Boxmeer. I also am very concerned, and when I first moved to Burton Hills, what I loved about it, I never thought I'd be living near a corporate park, but the balance of residential, and there are 2 assisted living facilities, it seemed well balanced, and I do love to walk and use the grounds. My concern is that with this additional building, the balance will fall predominantly to the commercial side. I understand development is important, but I wonder if there has been research done into how many of the users of the new building either already live in Davidson County or are planning to stay in Davidson County to become a tax base. How many would we actually be holding here within our county? I also heard a few things tonight that sort of surprised me. I did not know that there was any retail space within Burton Hills, and I walk there very frequently, so maybe that could be clarified. I did hear that with the, to say it's now a 4-story building to me is misleading because it is 7 below ground, or 3 below ground, and I think that will equal, of course, 7 floors. I asked at the most recent homeowners meeting if the blasting appraisal pre-blasting could be done by an independent group, and they said it would be done by the contracted blasting company. And I feel that they would have a vested interest. I also feel that, as others have said, it's one thing to list 200 or 250 cars, but if you are in the lanes of Burton Hills, and this will not just be people arriving and leaving, it will be people going in and out to lunch, in and out to the mall. And I've been there long enough that I have seen children that started out in strollers learn to ride their bikes there. And it is a beautiful family area. My concern is that the Green Hills will not be Green Hills anymore, and it will lose what attracted us all to that area to begin with. So these are some concerns that I have, and thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Margot Chambers. I live in Nashville, and my family's way of life is impacted by these 2 ordinances. Please consider withdrawing these ordinances or delaying them indefinitely, and here's why. These ordinances do not have public support. Staff did not properly engage citizens. The planning process was not transparent, and this change will negatively impact auto traffic, despite the traffic study that was done stating there will be no traffic impact. On August 9th, the Metropolitan Planning Commissioners deferred these agenda items due to the large number of citizens who came to express their concerns. However, even though the project was deferred and it had not been approved by the Planning Commission, it did begin its way through Metro Council. We're here at the second reading of an ordinance, even though this just cleared Metro Planning Commission last week. The deferred meeting announced major updates and no citizen input was allowed. A traffic study to reduce cut-through traffic does not address the citizens' concerns about traffic. Regarding the legality of the PUDs, I have heard the commissioners speak at the meetings when their microphones were off, and they claim to just want to approve plans and let Metro Council get sued. So I don't think that's a real good idea. The citizens of Nashville trust each one of you to protect them from ordinances created in this manner. Citizens were told of this project at the very last minute prior to a hearing. Despite what you may hear from the applicant, there is very little public support. Despite what you may hear about jobs, there are many districts in Nashville waiting patiently for a 7-story office building to arrive. Why then jam a skyscraper in at the expense of other districts and override a PUD in order to accomplish this task? You may not know that this project was hatched during the massive search for floor area ratio space, or FAR space, this summer related to the mass transit grant deadline. Green Hills and Midtown share the same community plan called Subarea 10. For the purposes of these ordinances, it means the following. If you need FAR in Sub-Area 10, you can always find some in Green Hills, because it will count the same as if it were in Midtown on the federal funding grant form. This is very poor city planning. Please do what you must to get rid of this ordinance. Thank you for your time.
Ms. Chambers, could you please give us your address?
Yes, 3803 Princeton Avenue.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Cynthia Stoker. I reside at 33 Bell Caro Circle in the village of Foxview in the Burton Hills development. I'm the president of my homeowners association representing 42 homes. All but one individual in our area voted against this project. Wanted you all to hear from the other side. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Christine Payson. I reside at 602 Arkland Place, and thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I'd like to basically reiterate what my neighbor said. I reside in the village of Ashlawn, and our president has been non-communicative with me and the neighbors that I speak to in our couple of buildings. I do have a petition that was signed by a few of them that were unable to attend tonight, that they are against it. Just in listening to the proposal tonight, one of the things that stood out to me as troubling was hearing it reiterated that, but of course we will be within city and state regulations, which I would think, of course you would. Why would you have to say that? That's sort of like telling somebody, of course I'm telling you the truth. Why would you assume that they weren't? But aside from that, the notion of the blasting is very concerning, that it was just sort of as an afterthought. Oh, and by the way, we're 4 stories instead of 7 because we're going 3 underground. And yes, that will require a great deal more blasting. But we're supposed to feel assured because the person they hire to do the building is going to make sure that they think the blasting is okay. In the context of the way that we've been given information, which was sort of misleading, by comparing the difference in the building from what's been approved to what they're asking for, which is not what we're going from 0 to 110. We're not going from 55 to 110. So it's all been a little difficult to trust the people giving us the information, and without anything more than vague comments that we'll work with you. I just, at the very least, would like this postponed until we had some better assurances and more definitive information. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Members of council, my name is Robert Bell. I'm a partner with Archard Bell Investments in Asheville, North Carolina. And in 2003 and 2005, we invested, along with our investors, $49 million to buy 2 buildings, Burton Hills 3 and 4.
Could you please give us your address?
15 East Forest Road, Asheville, North Carolina.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We're also the commercial owners who are most impacted by your decision. In July of this year, we first found out that a consent to change had been requested and granted in 2007. No mention had ever been made to us of that decision. No notice had ever been sent. And yet it seems that the developer, Mr. Aiken, wants to use this consent item to increase the size of the project even further. The building change in site and height does not impact Mr. Aiken's 2 buildings in Burton Hills, only ours. It needs to be noted that Mr. Aiken was the developer of the entire project and was responsible for getting the PUD approved in 1984. These restrictions certainly had a major impact on our decision to buy in Burton Hills. Never did we think that a dramatic change would be allowed that would severely impact the value of our investment. Certainly, none of our Nashville investors who invested in these properties with us thought it either. Throughout this process, the planning staff and the developer's own team have minimized the effect these changes will have on the Burton Hills community. They have minimized the traffic impact. How can an additional 110,000 square feet of office space not have an impact? Has anyone talked to the prospective tenant to find out how many employees he plans to have in that 110,000? Number two, they have minimized and changed the parking space restrictions. As I'm sure you know, there's a requirement of 3 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet. That would be 330 parking spaces. They have reduced it to 253. That is a 23% reduction. They have set back 20 feet, they have taken the 20-foot setbacks and set it to 10 feet. The staff says that it is consistent with office concentration. But the more critical question that I want to ask the Metro Council is that, is there a need to protect your existing landowners and tenants? The value of our investment will definitely be decreased. The staff admits that, quote, the 4-story building will still obstruct some views from the adjacent building to the north, which is our Burton Hills 4.
Thank you.
We respectfully request that you deny this request.
Thank you very much.
My name is Chuck Archard, 604 Holt Lane, Nashville, North Carolina. I too am a principal of Archard Bell Investment Group, and we manage this building for our investors. On the surface, this project appears straightforward. Increase the size of a building from what could be built today of 54,000 square feet to 110,000 square feet. This is the storyline John Aiken, the developer, wants everyone to hear. Burton Hills PUD represents an agreement between John Aiken, the original developer of Burton Hills, this council, and the landowners in Burton Hills. The PUD agreement includes what the county ordinance refers to as high standards for the protection of the living and working environment in Burton Hills. These high standards include a density of 550,000 square feet of commercial office space and a maximum building height for this parcel of 3 stories. The density limit prevents excessive traffic and preserves open space. 40 trees will be cut down in this area. The height limit specifically protects the views of the downtown skylines from buildings to the south of this project, which is our building, Burton Hills 4. What is John Aiken attempting to do? Let me explain. In 2007, without sending out a single legal notice to any landowner in Burton Hills and then placing the project on the planning and zoning consent agenda, John Aiken received approval for changes in Burton Hills to build a 4-story, 54,000 square foot building. The parties to the original PUD agreement were not involved. There was no notification of residents, no agreement by this council. The conditions associated with this approval have never been met. No building has ever been built. No traffic from this project has been added to Burton Hills. Nothing has changed. Yet while evaluating the current project, it's been treated as if the 2007 changes of the approved building were already in place and built. Only incremental traffic was considered. Only incremental square footage office space is cited. It was stated at one point during the P&Z hearing that just 14 car trips a day would be added. For 110,000 square feet of office space generating 14 trips, it's impossible. Now comes the current proposal. Again, John Aiken makes a written request to waive notification requirements. Again, he attempts to place this on a consent agenda until we unearthed it. I've attended all the neighborhood meetings. I've attended planning and zoning. I can tell you the residents are against it, and we as adjoining property owners are against it. I ask that this council put themselves in our position. Stand by your prior agreement and maintain the high standards of protection contained in the Burton Hills PUD, thus protecting the living and working environment in Burton Hills. I ask that you vote against this proposal.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor, neighbors, members of the council, my name is Tom White. I live at 36 Old Club Court. I represent Archard Bell. we would urge this council to defer this matter or consider disapproving it. Basically, the issue that we've got here is a condition of approval when this matter first came along in 1984. One of the conditions was, in our opinion, a limitation of 3 stories on the very site we're now talking about, where the applicant's requesting 4 stories. In 1984, Ferris Deep was the executive director of the Planning Commission. He wrote a letter to the current applicant, Mr. Aiken, and he gave, quote, conditional approval for this project, again in 1984. At that same time, there were conditions that were placed in the file, and they're called Conditions of Approval for the Burton Hills Planned Unit Development Proposal. One of those conditions is, quote, the northernmost office structure shall not exceed 3 stories in height. One of the issues here is, was that or was that not a condition? Was it ever waived? Everybody has concurred that condition has never been waived, so the question is, was it a condition in the first place? The staff, in this case, the planning department, is extremely capable. They scoured the records. This has been here since 1984. And what they said basically was, yes, the conditions, the language is in there, the northernmost office structure shall not exceed 3 stories in height. While the document was located in the file and is likely the Planning Commission's condition of approval, there's no way to verify its origin. Staff searched for the minutes from March 14. However, the 1984 volume is incomplete, so no further information could be found. Conditions of approval are typically contained with the approval letter. The approval letter dated March 19, 1984 indicates that the approval was conditional, but conditions are not included in the letter. That, in my opinion, sounds pretty clear. There was a condition, it was there, it's still there, it's never been waived. In 2007, the Metro Planning Commission approved a 4-story building on the site, and they called it a minor modification. You've heard from several people, the notices that went out were basically insignificant, certainly none to my clients. My clients purchased in 2003 and 2005 for the $49 million, which you've heard, a significant investment, in part relying on the documents that I've just read to you, a height limitation directly in their line of view to downtown Nashville, the northernmost area. Now, with respect to the process, let me make this comment. The applicant has come before you and said, we've met with a lot of neighbors, there's a lot of support. You didn't see it tonight. What you saw tonight was every homeowners association representative, every homeowner came to the mic and said, everybody in my development's opposed to it. So I don't take anything away from them. They may have discussed the approval with a number of different people. They clearly don't have the support. There were 2 neighborhood meetings within the last 90 days. No one that attended those meetings could tell you anything other than there was significant majority opposition to it, period. The last is consider this as to why you should defer. They say, we're going to do traffic improvements. We'll discuss them in the future. Let's discuss them now. That would be the exact opposite. I ask you to defer this matter or consider withdrawing it or deferring it. Thank you.
Seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember McGuire.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd move approval with a brief explanation, please.
Have a motion and a second.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Quickly, before I give any remarks, I would ask if Mr. Cooper, could you address some of the I guess, the legal questions that have been raised regarding this PUD amendment?
Well, the arguments that have been made tonight about the 1984 conditions that may or may not have been part of it, and the 2007 modification that the Planning Commission made, in my opinion, those are not issues that legally impact the council's ability to rezone the property or approve this PUD amendment. The council is the ultimate authority over zoning, and if the council, along with the Planning Commission, deems that this is consistent with the general plan, the council has the authority to amend the PUD however it sees fit. So even if those conditions were part of the bill, which I pulled the bill today, and they are not included in the legislation from 1984 or on the plan, but even if they were conditions adopted by the council at that time, that does not bind the council from changing them in the future.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cooper. I guess from my perspective, the developer has been actively working with the neighborhood, and I think that the communications thus far with the developer to the neighborhood, I believe they've been very upfront about this plan. With respect to the homeowners that spoke here tonight, I do sincerely appreciate them being here. I believe all were in attendance at my community meeting last week. I think it's important to remember, though, that Burton Hills is a development of over 500 homeowners. So there are many here tonight, regardless of their opinion, who are not making their opinion known. So I think that it's important to keep that in mind, and I also think it's important to keep in mind that there are concerns that the neighbors have raised, and they are valid concerns, but I think that the onus would be on myself to work with the neighborhood on a traffic calming plan. I fully commit to doing that. In conversations with the neighbors, it sounds like some of the issues regarding traffic have been in place long before this proposal was even made. So it sounds like there is a definite need there for traffic calming. This office building would be on the very far west side of the Burton Hills PUD. Therefore, it is extremely close to Hillsborough Pike, and I believe that would take the majority of the increased traffic. But again, I would fully commit to working with the neighborhood, and I would like to see us at least start to develop some kind of plan before third reading on this. I think that the neighbors' points of wanting to get a traffic plan in front of them are very valid, so I'll certainly work as hard as I can to make that possible. The other things that I would like to mention are that the developer, again, they're owners of 2 other office buildings in the park. They have made a significant investment along with the other commercial property owners, and I think that they don't want to detract from their own investments, but they would rather bring more quality to the office park. And it was highlighted earlier about site availability in Davidson County, or lack thereof. And I think this is one of those unique circumstances when a district council member has the real opportunity to bring about significant economic development opportunities to all the citizens of Nashville. And I think a project of this caliber would grow and keep business within Davidson County, which I've said this to constituents, and if anybody has heard me campaigning since 2007, growing and keeping jobs in Davidson County was one of my utmost priorities, and it's one of the reasons why I ran for council. And I think that development of this kind would do just that. So I would, again, commit to working with the neighbors to getting them more comfortable with the traffic calming plan and the blasting concerns. If there is anything that I can do to assist in that process, I would certainly be willing to do that. But again, I ask for your approval this evening. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Councilmember Stanley.
Thank you, Ms. Vice Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen of the council, I would just raise some issues regarding this development with you. The first is Hillsborough Pike. It is one of the most overly congested traffic corridors in Davidson County. And to include or to involve substantial increase in square footage, commercial square footage, that's just going to add additional traffic onto an already over-congested traffic highway Pike that is a public corridor. The Public Works has stated that the developers are going to be responsible for only making improvements to intersections. I have a development out in District 14 that was passed back in 2004. It borders 2-lane highways, Dodson Chapel Road, Central Pike, and Bell Road, and the Public Works stated the developer was going to be only responsible for providing improvements to intersections. And those improvements are never going to accommodate the traffic generated by that development once it's completed. It's going to be over 2,400 homes and over 35,000 square feet of retail space. Progress does not include development. Development can be progressive. if the neighbors that have invested heavily in this community are involved. We, as a council, represent the resident citizens of this city. And I appreciate the sponsor's ability. I would just like the sponsor to get some information to me and to all the other council members regarding the traffic volumes associated with Hillsborough Pike. Also, Burton Hills is primarily served by small residential arteries that are going to be accessed, and once these employees of this commercial development, once they leave the commercial development, they will be moving. The developers will have no input as to where the the employees will go. And many of them will access these roads because they're wanting to get to their destination as quick as possible. I have situations like that. We all have situations like that all throughout Davidson County. So I think it's up to us to defer this night. Let the developers and the residents and the councilmen work together to bring a plan that's acceptable to this city that can truly be progressive. I ask that at this time that the sponsor please defer this, and if anything, I cannot support an approval at this time. I can support a deferral. Thank you.
Councilmember Duvall.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We need jobs and we need business in Davidson County, and this is the kind of project that we all should be supporting. At the same time, when I was listening to the testimony back here, I was a little bit concerned that we had two legal parties squaring off over a single floor, over a 4-floor versus a 3-floor building. I will hope that all parties can come together and not make this a legal matter and work through this contention. And I hope everybody will be willing to do that. We need this, as far as I'm concerned, in Burton Hills and in Nashville and Davidson County. And I thank everybody for their interest tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Vice-Man Neighbors. This is a question for the sponsor. Well, several questions, actually. Were there additional sites in Davidson County or in this area considered? We definitely would welcome it out in the Hickory Hollow area, given, our support of economic development in the city and our area. So this is something that would be a welcome addition. But I was just curious as to if there were other sites within the area considered. Secondly, how close is this to residential homes? I don't get a sense or a picture of really how close this is to a lot of the residents who have spoken tonight from the various homeowners associations. And is there a pedestrian and green space plan with this project that will ensure pedestrian safety because of the increase in the number of cars that will be coming from this development, and the fact that we've had residents come and talk about the fact that they walk in the area and so forth? Is there a plan in place for that?
I just want to remind the council that this is public hearing night. None of these bills on public hearing have been before a council committee yet.
Okay.
And that is truly where we will answer those kind of questions, is when it's assigned.
Okay, I definitely will look forward to hearing your responses in the committee meeting. And the last thing is, how many attended your community meeting? And I would like to request a deferral or support or deferral of this as well, so that these questions can be answered.
Well, they'll be answered when it's assigned to the appropriate council committee.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Dominy.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and I will be brief. I understand this is public hearing night, but concerns were brought up about blasting, and intimately familiar with some blasting in my district. It goes on a regular basis. Has there been any consideration from the developer to install seismographic monitoring to document the level of blasting? I know they stated they would follow the guidelines of the state.
Councilmember, once again, that is a question you can answer in committee.
I think it's important we address it tonight as well.
Well,
for
it
the
hasn't
public.
gone through our committee process yet.
And, well, we will do that, but it's something that needs to be addressed.
It will be.
And it needs to be appropriate for the residents of here. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Claiborne.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Just briefly, as your representative on the Planning Commission, I'd like to give you a snapshot of the passage of this measure as it has come before that body. It originally was deferred by the entire commission. It was a unanimous vote to defer. There were two primary concerns that we had. Even though what is being proposed fits the land use, the issue was raised about the legality of changes that have been made into PUD and what the PUD allowed. And there was no clear answer at the time from legal as to exactly what the answer was. And the second item, from the conversation and the presentations that were made, it was very clear to us as commissioners that the two parties that are involved in the Burton Hills development proper were miles apart in their thinking and in their talking. And so the deferral was made for two primary reasons. One, we asked the Planning Commission to give us a history of the development of the PUD. There have been numerous changes that have been made to the PUD since it was originally passed back in the 1980s. And there have been attempted changes that were not successful. But we wanted to know what the history of the PUD was and if, in fact, there was a legal issue anywhere in that process. And then the other request was that the parties go back and do more talking, that there was certainly more room for discussion and for compromise to reach a point where both parties were at least somewhat comfortable. So when they came back to us this past week, we were told that the process of the PUD was in order, that all of the changes that have been made are part of the process, that all changes that are made to PUDs follow, and that as far as the legal issue, as Mr. Cooper has explained to us, that the council was the ultimate place where those changes could be made, and that as far as legal could tell at that point in time, everything related to the PUD was in order. And then obviously the compromise from a 7-story building to drop that down by going into the ground and making it a 4-story building and resolving some of the visibility or view issues looking toward Nashville had been resolved. Maybe not to 100%, but at least there was a compromise in place. And so there was very little discussion as those answers were presented to us, and the vote of the commissioners was unanimous, and we felt that everything was in order since this does fit in the land use plan. So just giving you a little snapshot of how this process has reached finally to the council floor.
Councilmember Hunt.
Madam President, call for the question, please.
Have a motion. All in favor of previous question, please say aye. Opposed, no. Previous question passes. We're back on the original motion. We have a motion and a second for approval. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. It will be assigned to our committee for further discussion. Thank you. Next is BL 2012-249, amends the Metro Code to add Nano Brewery as use permitted with conditions in the MUL, MULA, MUG, MUGA, MUI, MUIA, CL, and SC zoning districts. Councilmember Anthony Davis.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing, please.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing none on either side, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Anthony Davis.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move approval with brief comment, please.
Have a motion and a second. Councilman?
Thanks. I'll be super brief. Basically, if this flew under anyone's radar, we're just designating a smaller quantity for nano brewing. It'll be about a fourth the size of microbrew, and just opening it up to commercial corridors. This was unanimous at Planning Commission with the planning staff, of course, approving, and we'll look forward to talking about it in committee. Thank you, and I ask for your approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're now at resolutions. Resolutions RS 430 through RS 2012-446 are on the consent agenda. RS 2012-430 confirms the appointment of Francis Guest to the Board of Directors of the Convention Center Authority of Metropolitan Government. 431 confirms the appointment of William Simmons to the Board of Directors of the Convention Center Authority of Metropolitan Government. 432 confirms the appointment of Mona Warren to the Board of Directors of the Convention Center Authority. 433 confirms the reappointments of Leo Waters, Vonda McDaniel, and William McDonald to the Board of Directors of the Convention Center Authority effective October 18, 2011. 434 approves an application for a Cities of Service Impact Volunteering Grant from the Bloomberg to the Mayor's Office for Energy Retrofits in the Chestnut Hill community. RS 2012-435 approves a grant from the Tennessee Administrative Office of the Courts to the State Trial Courts for interpreter services for indigent defendants with limited English proficiency. 436 approves an application for a Mother Nurture Perinatal Classes grant from the March of Dimes Defects Foundation to the Metro Community Education Commission to offer perinatal care classes. 437 approves a grant from the State Department of Transportation to the Davidson County Sheriff's Office to reduce litter and trash along roadways and highways. 438 approves an application for a partnership project funding grant from the Tennessee Civil War National Heritage Area to the Metro Historical Commission to complete historic structure report for Fort Negley. 439 approves an application for a design review process revision and upgrade grant from the Tennessee Historical Commission to the Metro Historical Commission to revise and improve the local design review process.
It's like the guy that can't get over.
444 approves an application for a grant from the Tennessee Civil War National Heritage Area Partnership Funding Grant to the Metro Historical Commission to print brochures that tell Nashville's Civil War story. 441 approves an amendment to an agreement between the State Department of Transportation and Metro Public Works for improvements to the Korean Veterans Boulevard by extending the completion date from October 1, 2012 to October 1, 2017. 442 authorizes the Department of Law to compromise and settle the personal injury claim of LaTanya Davidson against Metro government in the amount of $15,000. 443 authorizes the Department of Law to compromise and settle the personal injury claim of Sonia West against Metro government in the amount of $22,500. 444 authorizes the Department of Law to compromise and settle the property damage claim of Wolf Tree, Inc. against Metro government in the amount of $83,000. 445 authorizes HCA Healthcare Services of Tennessee to construct, install, and maintain an aerial encroachment at 330 23rd Avenue, 345 23rd Avenue, and 326 21st Avenue. 446 authorizes Rodizo Grill Nashville Order in Progress LLC to construct, install, and maintain an aerial encroachment at 166 2nd Avenue North. Do any of these need to be pulled? Seeing none, I need committee reports. First, Budget and Finance, Councilmember Matthews.
Yes, Madam Vice Mayor. All consent agenda resolutions were approved by the Budget and Finance Committee. 434 was 9-4-0 against, the rest were 10-4-0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Dominy, Education. Councilmember Dominy. We'll come back to him. Planning and Zoning, Councilmember Claiborne.
Vice Mayor, Planning and Zoning Historic Committee approved RS 2012-438, 439, 440, 445, 446 by a vote of 7-4-0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Bennett, Public Safety.
Public Safety voted to approve 437, 540 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Potts, Public Works.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Public Works voted to approve RS 2012-441, 445, 446, 640 against.
Thank you. Education, Councilman Dominic.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. On behalf of the Education Committee, the resolution passed 3-4 and 0 against.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilmember Davis.
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor. Rules confirmed RS 2012-430, 431, 32, and 33, 7-4-0 against, and I move approval of the consent agenda.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're back to RS 2012-429. Approves a line of credit agreement between the Sports Authority and First Tennessee Bank and authorizes Metro to enter into a loan agreement and subordination agreement for arena capital improvements. Councilmember Matthews.
Yes, committee reports. Is it Budget and Finance only? Budget and Finance approved this as amended, 9-4-0 against, and I need to move the amendment first, John.
We have
I'd like
a
to move
motion
the
on the
amendment.
amendment. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Councilman Matthews.
I'd like to move the resolution as amended.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We have a late filed resolution. Councilmember Matthews, what is the nature of the emergency?
Late filed. John, could you explain the nature of the?
This is an agreement between the police department and the DEA for reimbursement of overtime expenses for officers or an officer participating in this DEA task force. And it's a time-sensitive matter. The agreement has to be approved. Actually, I think the effective date it started in October 1st.
All right. Do we have to get?
Councilmember Bennett, do you have a committee report?
Public Safety passed 540 against.
Councilman Matthews, Budget and Finance.
Budget and Finance approved 10-4-0 against, and I'd like to move approval.
Okay, is there any objection to a late filed resolution? I'm sorry. Seeing none, we have a motion.
Second.
And we have a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're now at bills on introduction and first reading. Are there any of those that need to be pulled for consideration? Seeing none, is there a motion for their approval? Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're now at bills on second reading. BL 2012-250 amends the Metro Code pertaining to former police department canines and horses. Councilmember Garrett.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I believe this has been approved by all committees and there are no more amendments, and I move approval, please.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-253 amends the official street and alley acceptance and maintenance map by abandoning a portion of Cherrywood Drive right-of-way. Councilmember Blaylock.
Thank you. Our committees are in.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Planning, Zoning, and Historic voted to approve 7-0.
Councilmember Potts.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Public Works voted to approve 6-4-0 against.
Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Traffic and Parking approved, 3 for, and 0 against.
Councilmember Blaylock.
Thank you. I move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-254 amends the official street, alley, and acceptance and maintenance map by abandoning a portion of Saunders Court right-of-way. Councilmember Bennett.
Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic voted to approve, 7-0.
Councilmember Potts.
Public Works voted to approve, 6 for, 0 against.
Councilmember Harrison.
Traffic and Parking approved, 3 for, and 0 against.
Councilmember Bennett. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-5255 amends the official street and alley and acceptance and maintenance map by abandoning a portion of Franklin Street right-of-way. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic voted to approve, 7-0.
Councilmember Potts.
Public Works voted to approve, 6 for, 0 against.
Councilmember Harrison.
Traffic and Parking deferred by rules.
Councilmember Gilmore.
Okay, well, I guess I have to defer it then. I can still move, okay, I would still like to move for approval.
We have a motion.
Do I have to suspend?
Is there any objection to a suspension of the rules?
Yeah.
Seeing none.
I would like to move for approval, thank you.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-256 authorizes the exchange of property for use by the Department of Parks and Recreation. Councilmember Bedney.
Committee report, please.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic voted to approve, 7-0.
Councilmember Gilmore.
Yes, Parks and Library approved, 2 for, and 0 against.
Councilmember Matthews.
Budget and Finance approved 10 for, 0 against.
Councilmember Bedney.
I move for approval, please.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-257 amends the stormwater provisions of the Metro Code regarding the modification of existing commercial and industrial facilities within the floodplain of the Cumberland River. Councilmember Matthews.
Committee reports.
Councilmember Potts.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Public Works voted to approve, 6 for, 0 against.
Budget and Finance, Councilmember Matthews.
Budget and Finance approved 10 for, 0 against, and I'd like to move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-258 abandons 265 feet of an existing 10-inch sewer and 135 feet of an existing 12-inch sewer and the acquisition of an easement for 307 feet of 12-inch sewer on property located at 615 Nestor Street. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic voted to approve, 7-0.
Councilmember Potts.
Public Works voted to approve, 6 for, 0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Gilmore.
Move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-259 abandons a Metro Water Services pumping station and the associated easement located at 801 Stoner Mill Lane. Councilmember Jernigan.
Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic voted to approve, 7-0.
Councilmember Potts.
Public Works voted to approve, 6 for, 0 against.
Councilmember Matthews.
Budget and Finance deferred by rule, 10 for, 0 against.
Councilmember Jernigan.
I'd like to ask for suspension of the rule, please, for move approval.
Is there any objection? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. We have a motion and a second. You want to say anything?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Move approval.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-260 authorizes the acquisition of utility easements for properties located at 3009 Darrington Way and Chandler Road unnumbered. Councilmember Jernigan.
Committee reports.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic voted to approve 7-0.
Councilmember Potts.
Public Works voted to approve 6-4, against.
Councilmember Matthews.
Budget and Finance approved 10-4, against.
Councilmember Jernigan.
Move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-261 deletes and/or amends various sections of the Metro Code that are no longer enforced or otherwise no longer appropriate. Councilmember Evans.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Davis.
Rules Committee approved 7-4, against. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. And Madam Vice Mayor, I move approval with a brief thank you to the Vice Mayor, Council Lady Weiner, Council Lady Gilmore on this effort, and particularly John Cooper, who combed the code and did a lot of great work. So thanks so much.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Holloman.
I was just going to ask if Councilor Evans could give us just a brief rundown of what's being changed. I know we're on second, but...
Mr. Cooper, since you did most of the research.
How brief would you like it, Al?
Brief.
You want to stick with that? We've had about 5 meetings on this.
I'll point out some of the highlights.
Thank you.
Rewriting the School Mothers Patrol Ordinance to coincide with the charter amendment that will be on the November ballot. Removing the requirement that we license motion picture projectionists, whatever those are. Taking out the provisions governing convalescent and old age homes, since those are now covered under the state law and the building and fire code.
Is all this in here now?
It is all in
Okay.
yes. And we're doing away with the curb market on the public square, which would keep us from having the park out front. And we're taking out the prohibition on dragging timber.
And if the viewing public would like to hear more, they could go to our website and click on the analysis of our agenda.
Are you okay with men being patrol school? Oh, okay. I'll renew my motion for approval.
All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-262 amends the Metro Code pertaining to honorary street signs. Councilmember Matthews.
Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Claiborne.
Planning, Zoning, Historic voted to approve 7-0.
Councilmember Potts.
Public Works voted to defer 1 meeting and refer back to committee, 6-4, against.
Councilmember Matthews.
I would like to move for deferral with a brief explanation.
Have a motion and a second. Councilmember.
There were several questions that came out of the Public Works Committee last night, and I was unable to attend the meeting. So with respect to our committee system and the protocol that the Vice Mayor has set, I will defer this for 1 meeting, and I will attend the Public Works Committee to answer many of the questions that were asked.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second on deferral. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're now at BL 2012-213. Amends the Metro Code to require members of boards and commissions to provide an email address and telephone number for posting on the Nashville.gov website. Councilmember Garrett.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Having been approved by all the committees, I move approval, ma'am.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-237 amends the Metro Code relative to employee and retiree benefits, pensions, and medical benefits. Councilmember Banks.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Neighbors. Seeing all our committee reports in, I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-242 authorizes the acquisition of right-of-way easements by negotiation or condemnation for intersection improvements at Jefferson Street and 28th Avenue and Jefferson Street and 21st Avenue North. Councilmember Langster.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Having been approved by all committees, move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-243 authorizes the acquisition and acceptance of right-of-way easements and property rights for sidewalk bikeway improvements along White Bridge Road. Councilmember Matthews.
Okay. I'd like to move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-251 approves a facilities use agreement between Metro Nashville Public Schools and Nashville State Community College for use of space to serve as a temporary location for the Academy at Hickory Hollow. Councilmember Dow.
Seeing that all committee reports are in, I move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2012-252 approves the abandonment of 215 feet of sanitary sewer main and easements and accepts 590 feet of a relocated 8-inch sanitary sewer on properties located at 1600 Rosa L. Parks Boulevard and Rosa L. Parks Boulevard unnumbered. Councilmember Gilmore.
Okay, all committee reports are in, so I move for approval.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. You just received something on your desk pertaining to, there are 2 vacancies on the Health and Education Facilities Board. We will be taking nominations at our next meeting on October the 16th. The candidates will be interviewed by the Rules Committee on November the 13th, and we will conduct the election that night. So just be sure to take note of that. Is there a motion to adjourn? All in favor?